Hey, what's up guys? John here. In this video, I'm going to give my real estate prediction for the next 12 months and beyond. And I think I'm spot on. I mean, I'm looking at all the data every day, all day, and studying. And I see the trends, and I'm so positive that I think all this is going to roll out exactly how I'm predicting. So that being said, I'm not saying that I'm happy about it. I'm not saying I'm happy about any of this. So I'm just saying that this is likely what's going to happen. You know, Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's business partner, made a statement a while ago and said, smart people see things for how they are, and everyone else sees things for how they want them to be. So I try to keep a very open mind and kind of remove what I want to happen from the equation. So, I mean, ultimately, I think we're going to see the biggest shift in power that we've ever seen in human history. I mean, at least for the last couple hundred years. So this is pretty much what's going to happen step by step. So right now, we're seeing the exodus from the cities. People are leaving the cities because really, you know, there's no need to be in an expensive, high-tax city with crime and high cost of living when you can work remotely at a more cost-effective location, save money in tax, and not be around all the craziness inside, like a New York City or an LA or a San Francisco. So they move, and we see that, right? So we're seeing a short-term spike in residential sales, people buying homes, simply because the high cost of living in the city that they were once at is, it was very expensive to rent a place. So now they can go to a suburb, and for the same price they were paying in rent, they can go ahead and buy a nice house, 3, 4, 5-bedroom house, and they're happy. They're going to be working from home more, so they get an office and they have everything they need. And short term feels really good. Interest rates are very low. There's not that much housing supply out there. We're at a 30-year low for housing supply. So there's not that much inventory, so prices are getting bid up. So people see these multiple offers right now and they think that the housing market's on fire, when in reality, it's really not. It's a short-term spike, and that spike is going to fade, and it's going to fade really quickly, in my opinion. What I think is also going to happen is as we step into the holidays and elections and things of that nature, people are going to be even more likely to leave. There's going to be a second wave of moving from cities to the suburbs. So we're going to see another spike because people are going to have more time. They're going to be second guessing their reason of staying in a city, and they're going to be planning for 2021. Are they going to want to live in that city and go through another year in that city like they just went through the last 6 months? A lot of people, I think, are going to end up moving. We're going to probably see another short-term spike in home sales. But in the spring, more people are going to list their home, which is very common, so prices will likely come back down. However, this is all pending what happens with the stimulus, what happens with unemployment, what happens with the elections, and everything else. I mean, the government right now is pretty much keeping the markets and keeping the economy alive. At least that's how they're conveying it to all of us. So we're going to see that second spike, but eviction moratoriums, that is scheduled to expire December 31st in most locations in America. That likely will get pushed out as well, just because it's going to be freezing. They're not going to let little boys and girls and single mothers and husbands and all these people go on the street in the dead of winter. So they're likely going to push it out even more. They're likely probably going to offer some type of foreclosure relief or eviction moratorium extension, something to try to alleviate any huge burst of pain in the market. They're going to try to push this out as long as possible. So that ultimately is just kicking the can down the road. Eventually, we're going to have to face the problems. And as that happens, we're going to start to see a huge shift. Right now, we're seeing a big shift in power. We're seeing the shift of Americans going from an independent body of people to a dependent body of people, where we're dependent on the state and the government to supply us with subsidies and assistance. Well, when they end that, everyone's going to be in need. And when everyone's in need and they're dependent on someone else, that someone else owns you. And that is what they're trying to, at least that's what it seems like they're trying to do, is they're crushing middle America. Because if this gets pushed out another 6 months, 12 months, people aren't just going to be able to go back to the office like everything is normal. Most businesses will be all gone. I mean, there's over 100,000 businesses already permanently closed, and that's like 2-month-old data. By the time the new year comes, probably have 150, 180,000 businesses permanently closed just from 2020, and that's only 9 months, 10 months into the shutdown. So that being said, what's going to happen is when people are walking around with these masks on all day, we're seeing human connection get injured. It's getting impacted greatly. Where you can't see people smile, you can't do a transaction and actually make a human connection like you could in the past, which actually benefits greatly for big tech, because they're incentivizing you to spend your money online and have your relationships through social media, through DMs, through their platforms. So the more it is that you are not dependent on that face-to-face connection, the better it is for their business model. So this actually works out greatly for them. What we're also going to see is now people working more and more from home. It seems great. It seems like, okay, great, I can stay home. I don't need to live in an expensive city. I can, get a nice house and I can work when I want to, and I'm paid on productivity. So I don't have to just sit and stare at the screen all day at the office. Well, good news and bad news on that. What I think is going to happen is I think that we are going to see more and more that companies are looking to buckle down and make their business a bit more cash effective, so they're not very, very high on expenses, because a lot of businesses almost went under. And if your business, if you're on a company or you work at a company, they've probably learned a lot of very valuable lessons throughout this shutdown. So what I think is going to happen is I think they're going to start outsourcing talent, and I think they're going to do it in a very intelligent fashion. Have you ever seen the movie or the TV series on Netflix, Breaking Bad? What Gail Bedecker did with Gus Fring and Walter White is Gail sampled some of Walter's product and told Gus how great it was, how great this product was, and that he couldn't match that product. So what Gus did was he brought Walter on, and when Walter was on, he had the assistant work right next to Walter. So the assistant was just studying, learning everything. So once Bedecker felt like he had everything locked down and was ready to roll out the product, they could just fire Walter White. And so Gus Fring, that was his business plan. So I think what we're going to see is that we're going to see a lot of companies outsourcing and bringing people over and basically using their employees, their current existing employees, to start training new employees. And as they start training and educating these new employees, I think more and more Americans that work on social media and work remotely are going to start losing their jobs and begin getting laid off in grand scale, probably over the next 3 to 5 years, which then is going to really hurt middle-class America. Middle-class America is, the mechanic, it's, Sally the nurse and Joe the plumber and all these businesses. And I think a lot of these aren't going to make it. And then above them are people that work, $80,000, $100,000, $150,000 a year, and they work at a company. And I think those people are going to be greatly impacted in the not so distant future through outsourcing. And what I then think is going to happen, I think we're going to see a wave of foreclosures happen during that period, probably in the next, I would guess, 6 to 9 months is when it's probably going to start, and it's going to roll out for a few years. I don't think there's going to be like a V-like recovery or a W-like recovery where we bounce. I think it's literally just going to be an L for a long time, and then it's going to start picking back up. But as these foreclosures happen, and as they kind of roll out in mass scale, because that's what's going to happen, we're not just going to have people that got laid off and lost their jobs. We're not just going to have people that were over leveraged on properties because they bought these properties at a 3, 4, 5% return, and now rents are dropping 30, 40, 50% from their all-time high was when they bought the property, and they simply just can't afford the debt on it. So it's not just going to be those, but we're also going to have a lot of people that simply just couldn't make it through the shutdowns with 50% occupancies in their business, in their restaurants. All these middle-class jobs are going to likely be greatly impacted. And so we're going to see a large swing of foreclosures. We're going to see a very, 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 way bigger than 2008. Ray Dalio, he's one of the greatest investors of our time. worth over $20 billion. He says this recession is going to be the worst one we've seen in 100 years, since 1929. So I think we're going to go through that. But what's going to be different about this one is we are going to see big tech and a lot of the elite and Wall Street firms running out and basically realizing that the US dollar and the currencies that we're using are almost meaningless because they can just keep printing and printing and printing. But investing in land where there's a finite supply of it offers them a huge opportunity because they can literally go buy the land and they can go put 20, 30, 40% down and basically utilize 2 or 3x their cash value. So they can, if they have $1 billion, they can go buy $3 billion in real estate. And if real estate prices are very depressed, that's a lot of land. And these tech companies have a hell of a lot more money than that. And that's what I think is going to happen. I think that they're going to continue to roll out and buy up a lot of the property. And I think that's going to be probably like the next 5-year plan. Probably less, probably a lot less than that. But I think that that's all kind of inevitable. And I think it's shocking how quick America was to give up their freedoms and liberties. And we keep seeing like this went from like a 15-day let's flatten the curve thing to a now this is just normal. And we're not talking about opening up. I mean, it's very interesting. It's very interesting. I see people talking about how the real estate market's going to continue to be at a very all-time highs for a while. I don't see it. Just because there's low interest rates, you still have to qualify for a loan. Most people don't have 2-year stable income, especially because of the lockdowns, where they're going to be able to qualify for mortgages going forward. In addition to that, they don't have the cash in the bank and the credit. I mean, I was reading something that Credit Karma put out that showed the financial status of everyone in the country. And most people couldn't. I think it was like 25 or 30% of people couldn't make it from now until election day without another stimulus or unemployment check. So people are living, week by week right now, and a lot of power in the hands of the government. And most people, I mean, the government especially, they have all that power. They're likely not just going to give it back. They realize the great level of power that they actually have, and I think that it's unfortunate. But I mean, there is really, really good news here. The good news is that if you understand what you're doing and you can properly evaluate real estate and not run out and make an emotional decision like buying a brand new house or buying something that you don't need, but you're out there buying, let's say, a really good real estate deal in a market that's within close proximity of a city that is not way above your means. That's where people are going to get hurt. They're not going to be able to weather the storm. So you don't want to do that. You want to buy something you can really afford, something that's going to produce cash flow, something that if rents drop 10, 20, 30, 40, or even 50%, you would be able to weather that storm. It sounds crazy, rents dropping that much. San Francisco rents already dropped 31%. 31%, and it's only 8 months in. I think by New Year's, we'll probably see another 20%, another 30%. I wouldn't be surprised to see a 40% drop in Manhattan and New York. LA, maybe a 15 or 20% drop. These are big, big numbers. I mean, this is going to wipe out so many investors. I think most people are going to get wiped out because of this. And it's just it's a good thing for people that are thinking about investing because there's a lot of lessons to be learned here. I mean, it's not a good thing, but it's a valuable opportunity for people to gain knowledge at the expense of the front row seat that we all have to this crazy new normal. So that being said, take all this stuff into consideration. I think that this is likely going to be the chain of events that's going to follow. Drop your comments below. What do you think is going to happen? Hit that like button and subscribe. A lot more real estate content, business content, everything coming out. I post nearly daily to keep everyone informed and educated on what's to come. All right, guys, I'll see you in the next video.